Welcome back, my friends. Thanks again for joining us for another episode as we continue studying through the Word of God together. We are in the book of Genesis, Genesis chapter 40, and we're going to jump into the section in just a second. I want to just give a little bit of context. We finished one of the more well-known sections, or should we say more well-preached on sections of the story of Joseph as he went through the temptation with Potiphar's wife. And now as a result of that, he finds himself in jail for something he had not done. Really finds himself in jail for obedience. And again, as we follow this journey, we go back to the sovereignty of God. As we follow this journey, we go back and we look and we say, questions. Why would God allow this to happen? He did right. He was obedient. And these are the things that can, if you're not careful, really eat you up if you allow it to. And we have to go back to their memory where Isaiah said that God's ways are not our ways and his thoughts are not our thoughts. How he is going to fulfill his plan is very different than how we would fulfill it, and it doesn't always make sense. That's why in Proverbs, Solomon said, trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. Do not put any trust or weight in your understanding. And trust me, that is a lot harder to do, especially like Joseph's in the middle of trial, in the middle of a struggle. It's a lot harder to do it there because, to be honest with you, we'll read this in a second. There's a lot of things that have happened in Joseph's life to this point to give him reason to doubt, give him reason to wonder, why is this happening? There's plenty of reason for that. And so now he finds himself, in the end. Now, at this point, 13 years we know before he gets out. So about 11 years into this when this takes place. And so we jump in a little bit longer, probably cover all of chapter 40 as we walk through a story most of us are familiar with, if you've grown up in church. If not, it's an intriguing story of just begin to see how God Joseph honoring God, and then God beginning to honor Joseph. Genesis 40 says this, It came to pass after these things that the butler and the baker of the king of Egypt offended their lord, the king of Egypt. And Pharaoh was angry with his two officers, the chief butler and the chief baker. So he put them in custody in the house of the captain of the guard, in the prison, the place where Joseph was confined. And the captain of the guard charged Joseph with them, and he served them, so they were in custody for a while. So they were put in jail for a period of time, ended up being in the same prison. Remember, when Potiphar threw him in, he threw him into the prison where the king's prisoners are held. And so, again, now we see two people. One of these, we'll see in a moment, is going to, in 3 days, be placed back in the presence of the king. The other one is going to be killed. And so we're going to see in a moment how God connects, the one thing, one of the ways, and he could have done it a bunch of other ways, but one of the ways that he connects Joseph to Pharaoh is through this scenario right here. Verse 5. Then the butler and the baker of the king of Egypt, who were confined in prison, had a dream. Both of them each man's dream in one night, and each man's dream with its own interpretation. Joseph came into them in the morning and looked at them, and they saw they were sad. So he asked Pharaoh's officers who were with him in the custody of the Lord's house, saying, Why do you look so sad today? And they said to him, We have each had a dream, and there is no interpreter of it. So Joseph said to them, Do not interpretations belong to God? Tell them to me, please. Now, I think there's a few intriguing things about just that part. Not just the fact they had dreams and they were frustrated. They realized these dreams are more than just a rough night. They were letting them know, this is the whole part of the premise of what Joseph is holding on to as a dream from years ago. But I love the fact that Joseph says, Is the interpretation not in God? Tell it to me. Well, there's a couple of things I see there. One, you still see Joseph's trust 11 years later, still trusting in God, still trusting in that promise, in those two dreams from 11 years earlier, even though he was sold into slavery, even though he was thrown into jail and he'd done nothing wrong in those scenarios, even though all those things had happened, he still had trust in God. So that itself, when circumstances, you think about it, when circumstances tell you not to trust, Joseph didn't. And that's what we have to do when circumstances tell us not to trust in God, because unfortunately, there will be times they will. Unfortunately, there will be times that circumstances will convince you that this isn't working, things are falling apart, and you can't trust circumstances. And I promise you, you can't trust circumstances, but you can trust God. Years ago, I don't know if I heard this or wrote it down, I don't remember what it was, but a phrase that has been kind of stuck with me probably for the last 20 years at this point, and it's simply this: never let your present circumstance decide your present walk. Never let your present circumstance in life decide your present walk. Everything be falling apart, it may not make sense, and frankly, even what God is asking you to do may be very complicated. But don't let it change your view of God. Your financial situation, your health situation, your employment situation, There could be a bunch of things, your family situation. There could be a list of things where you look and say it's not fair, it doesn't seem right, everything seems to be falling apart, and in a literal sense, it might be. You might find yourself in the midst of chaos right now. I encourage you not to let that circumstance decide your walk with God. So many people walk away from God when things don't work right. So many people walk away from God when things they want to happen don't work right. They've got a plan, they want it a certain way, and it doesn't happen, so they walk away from God because of that. Well, may we be careful to not let our present circumstance decide our present walk. You know why? Because like in Ecclesiastes, we're going to learn for every time of every, there's seasons of life. There's good seasons, there's bad seasons. There's a beginning, a middle, and end of each season. And so wherever you are, there's an end to your season. Don't let that, don't let that affect your relationship with God. Don't do things that you regret because you don't understand the season right now. Keep your eyes on Jesus and keep moving forward and make wise decisions to follow God in the midst of this. So let's continue. Verse 9, it says this, "And the chief butler told his dreams to Joseph, and he said to him, Behold, in my dream a vine was before me, and in the vine there were 3 branches. It was though it budded and blossomed, it blossomed, shot forth, and its clusters brought forth ripe grapes. And Pharaoh's cup was in my hand. And I took the grapes and pressed them into Pharaoh's cup and placed the cup in Pharaoh's hand. And Joseph said to him," this is the interpretation of it, "the 3 branches are 3 days. Now within 3 days of Pharaoh will lift up your head and restore you to your place, and you will put Pharaoh's cup in his hand according to the former manner when you were his butler. But remember me when it is well for you, and please show kindness to me. Make mention of me to Pharaoh, and get me out of this house. For indeed I was stolen away from the land of the Hebrews, and also I have done nothing here that they should put me into the dungeon." When the chief baker saw the interpretation was good, he said to Joseph, I also was in my dream, and there were 3 white baskets on my head. In the uppermost basket were all kinds of baked goods for Pharaoh, and the birds ate them out of the basket on my head. So Joseph answers and said, "This is the interpretation of it. The 3 baskets are 3 days. Within 3 days Pharaoh will lift up your head from you and hang you on a tree, and the birds will eat the flesh from you." Now, I'll be honest, that would be a scary thing to say if I were Joseph. I mean, you tell the one guy, man, this is great. This is going to be a great thing for you. The next one, sorry, in 3 days you're going to die. Makes you wonder, what is it they did that was so offensive to the king? Either way, they give this dream. And here's another thing that I think is intriguing. Their willingness to share this dream to Joseph. His testimony must have been so strong that even the pagan, if you want to use it, those who did not believe in Jehovah God, saw his relationship with God so strong that they were willing to say, we're going to put our trust in this. What a great testimony. And again, he's in jail. Even the unbelieving would have a valid reason to say, how can you trust in him? He's allowed you to be here. And yet his testimony was still so strong. Of course, the interpretation, one of them was said you'll be back in the presence of God in 3 days. The next one, you were going to lose your life in 3 days. A very ominous interpretation, Joseph puts it out. Of course, he asked the one going back, please remember me. I'm not here. I didn't do anything wrong. I was stolen. And he gives a whole list. And I love the fact in this that Joseph shows that this is not where he wants to be, shows the misery of it. He's real about his circumstance in this scenario. And I appreciate, because sometimes we got to pretend like it's not real. Sometimes you do. You can't ignore the circumstance you're in. You can't pretend like it's not there. You have to work through it. You have to work through the emotions so that they won't control you. You have to learn what God's teaching you through it. You have to just find a way. What can I learn to grow and allow this trial to develop patience, as the book of James says. Let's look at the last couple of verses. Verse 20. Now it came to pass in the 3rd day, which was Pharaoh's birthday, that he made a feast for all his servants. And he lifted up the heads of the chief butler and of the chief baker among his servants. Then he restored the chief butler to his butlership again, and he placed the cup in Pharaoh's hand. But he hanged the chief baker, as Joseph had interpreted to them. Yet the chief butler did not remember Joseph, but forgot him. So the butler gets put back into place 3 days later, just like that. Now, you would assume that in that he would go back and say, man, this Joseph is impressive. He did this. I need to go back and say thank you. You would assume all of that, but it didn't happen. He was so excited to get out of prison. Maybe he got there and said, I don't want to remember anything from my time in jail. And doing that, he totally forgot about Joseph and how Joseph had been kind to him and interpreted the dream and just been a help in his time there. And now we'll find out later, just the beginning of verse 41, that it came to pass at the end of 2 full years. So and next time we'll talk about Joseph's dream and Pharaoh's dream and how it brings Joseph out of prison. It was 2 years later. Imagine how discouraging that must have been for Joseph. I mean, it's been 11 years at this point. There looks to be an opportunity that God has given him. He's honored him, and God has honored him by putting him in positions of authority. And through all of this, it really looks like that this is an opportunity to get out, and then it's 2 more years. What patience Joseph had in this time. And I'm telling you, patience is a very, very complicated thing to show. You ever had the phrase, Lord, please teach me patience? You're afraid to do that because then God will put you in circumstances that forces you to be patient. Can I encourage you, the only really, from my experience, for me, one of the greatest ways to have patience is to put your trust in God. Patience in people sometimes doesn't work, as it didn't happen in this situation. You have to find that your trust and your patience is in God and in God alone. It's the only place. It's the only place you can find full help in Him and His Word. And in those circumstances, when you don't, you put your trust and your hope in other things, you'll find it to be so empty. May you find your trust in Christ alone. Whether that means in salvation, whether that means in whatever you're going through right now. I encourage you, I don't know what you're going through. I don't know what it is that would maybe in your mind be valid for why you're frustrated. But I encourage you, keep your eyes on Jesus. Don't make poor decisions based upon legitimate frustrations right now. Keep your eyes on Jesus and wait for that season to end and wait and see what God will do to honor and glorify Himself and to put His hand upon you. Well, we greatly appreciate the privilege you give to us to be part of your day. We hope this is a help. Hope this is an encouragement. Hope you stick with us as we'll jump into chapter 41 again next time. Again, thanks for joining us. We look forward to seeing you again next time.